I've always wondered what it would be like to be that girl. You know, the ones who seem to have it all figured out, that perfect life, an incredible career, partner, and everything in between. Well, so far, I've identified more as imperfectly perfect. But here's a crazy idea. You and I'm confident we can have it all too. A life we're in love with. Because, hear me out, the more I go through life, the more I realize that actually no one knows what they're really doing. And let's be honest, we're all out here just trying to figure it all out. Life can be messy, busy, and lonely sometimes. But most of all, it's pretty epic, and that's the fun of it. Making mistakes and learning to love who you are. Because you can't hate the experiences that shaped you, right? Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can become who you were meant to be in the first place. But one thing I know for sure is that if there's one thing I'm willing to bet on, it's myself, my true self, and so should you. Welcome to the She's Got It All Figured Out podcast. Well, almost. A personal development podcast helping you design a life you love within the 8 dimensions of wellness. Now, grab a warm cup of coffee, go on your hot girl walk, or put on your sweats and get comfy. But whatever you're doing, get ready for some epic girl talk. Hi Cindy, welcome to the She's Got It All Figured Out podcast. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're joining. So Cindy, you have a lot of things that you're doing. You're a realtor, you're an entrepreneur, you've worked in the film industry as well. So I'd like to kind of get to know you a little bit more, and for the audience as well. How did you get into being such an entrepreneur?
Oh my goodness.
Big question.
Yes. How did I get into it? I think I just follow the things that interest me. Mm-hmm. Whenever I have something on my mind, or sometimes it can even come to me in a dream. Like if it's something that sticks on my mind and it keeps coming back to me, then I follow through with it. You know, I take that chance. And I don't have film experience. I have TV experience. Yeah. And that's kind of how that happened. I kind of stumbled into it, you know. I don't have a background in production or anything like that. I have a university degree, but it's in sociology. Nothing to do with anything that I'm doing. Like sociology with a minor in psychology. It has nothing to do with production, but it's something that I was interested in, and a bit similar to your story. I was kind of self-searching, and like I saw that women were looking for inspiration. And personally, I didn't have a lot of female role models that were like business savvy. And so that's something that I was looking for. And in my search, I decided, you know what, let me just start documenting it. Maybe that'll be useful to other people besides me. And it was just like short 5-minute videos that I would just put on my website. I had the idea for a long time before I did it. And one day, different circumstances, I happened to be pitching a whole different idea to like various network with zero experience in pitching, by the way. I literally Googled how to pitch a TV show, okay?
Google's always there for you.
Google is the answer, okay? And I just sent a bunch of like presentations to a bunch of companies, and to my surprise, they started answering, and it was pretty positive. It was, you know, comments like, we like your presentation, but we're located in the US, or we like your presentation, but, you know, we're in Montreal, we don't have the budget. And so it was, you know, answers like that until finally I received a response from Bell, and Bell said, we love the concept, but you should reach out to our local Montreal team to see, you know, if this is something they could do. And through conversations, they didn't have the budget for the initial idea, but in me pitching a bunch of things, they saw the videos on my website, and they loved the concept, and they decided to produce that show. And so that's kind of how that ended up happening, and the show went on to air on cable TV for I think 3 or 4 years. 4 years.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, and then there was
like
the
that.
French version that they had me do. So it was like it was an amazing experience, and I met a lot of great women through it.
Yeah.
And as you know, that's kind of the fun part of doing this is the encounters
Yeah,
that you have,
exactly.
right?
That's true. And what I've noticed a lot about you is like you're really a go-getter. Like you said, like when you're passionate about something, like you really go for it. Like I know that's a question I know our audience would be curious about. Like how do you get that confidence? Like get out of that comfort zone and kind of like go for your goals and dreams. And like even like you said, if you don't feel like you might necessarily have the skills or the experience, like you can totally still do it.
Right. It's so funny. You remind me of a friend I was having lunch with recently, and she's like, like, not that you're insecure or anything, but you seem super confident. And then I talked to you, and you're so, like, down to earth. And I was telling her, I am scared shitless. Like, yes, I'm confident. Like, I love myself, but I am scared a lot of the time. I have anxieties. I have social anxieties. Sometimes people don't believe me because they're like, you've done camera and,
Yeah.
how could you...
And you have like that great energy.
Right.
Yeah.
But I have like quite a bit of social anxiety, and I'm in my head a lot, and I overthink. I think, I have all the same, issues as anyone else, but I just like work through it,
Yeah.
And so when I went into real estate, again, it was totally out of nowhere. I just knew that I liked real estate.
Yeah.
Like we would be watching TV, my husband and I would be scrolling properties online. I just liked looking at
You're
it.
already kind of looking into
Right.
it. Yeah.
And, at some point I was trying to find a balance, with entrepreneurship, and like I knew I wanted to have kids soon, and as you know, being an entrepreneur or like self-employed can take a lot out of you. So I was just kind of trying to figure things out and trying to figure out my next move. And that's when my husband was like, why don't you look into real estate? Like you already, spend so much time
doing it.
Yes. And that's kind of how that all started. But I was scared. I was totally scared. It's, it's not a salary. It's completely commission based.
Yeah. So that's where that entrepreneurship comes.
Right.
Too. Like you have to like do things on your own.
Do things on your own. Motivate yourself, which is actually one of the hardest things when you're an entrepreneur.
That's
It's
true.
the self-motivation.
Yeah. No one's there to like tell you what to do.
Yes,
Like, you
no
have to do it
one's
yourself.
there.
Yeah.
It would be so easy to just stay in bed, like. But finding that self-motivation is so hard. So I don't know. I was scared going into it. You spend a lot of money getting your license. It's not like it's in the States.
Yeah, it's an investment in yourself and like your goals, and that's
Right.
scary. Yeah.
In the US, you could get your license in like 30 days, whereas here, you're investing, a year of your life, you're investing quite a bit of money, and there's still no guarantees after.
Yeah.
And, online, like with social media, it looks like it's really easy, and all realtors are like bawling and like, and then you have shows like selling Selling Sunset,
yeah.
and $1 million listing, and you have all these things. So it makes it look like it's such a luxurious
Like
lifestyle.
glamorous,
It's so
yeah.
glamorous. It's so easy. You come to the office and the boss gives you a new listing that's worth $2 million. Like that's actually nowhere close to reality.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you have to hustle, you have to find your own clients, which is one of the most common questions that I get from people interested in real estate. Yes, you have to find your own clients. And so, sorry, to get back to your question, I am scared shitless. I just do it anyways.
Yeah, that's what you have to do it. You have to put yourself out there.
Yeah, for sure. And now it's all about branding, right? So you have to be active on social media, you have to be seen, and you have to network and build relationships with people. But again, it's all up to you, right? I mean, there's always an element of risk, especially when you're about to do something amazing, and that's kind of how you know that you're about to do something amazing. If you're a little bit nervous, but like the excited kind of nervous, you just have to be strategic. I mean, hopefully you save. If you have a 9 to 5 and you're thinking of making the transition, plan for it. Plan years ahead of time.
Yeah.
Save enough for like 6 months without a salary, and have support. Let your friends and family know that you will be going through a transition and you need the support. Or if you're launching a product or a new business, start getting the word out so that you can start building your database or your clientele before you even start whatever the business is.
Yeah, it's like setting yourself up for success. So
Exactly.
Like there's the planning part of it. That's true.
Huge planning part.
And what are some of the big challenges that you faced in your career, if it was like real estate or some big moments for you?
Challenges. I think every industry has challenges, and I think like any other industry, it's kind of how do you set yourself apart? Because there are hundreds of new realtors every year. What makes you any different from any other realtor, right? So really being comfortable with yourself and being authentic. I think that's really the only way. Being authentic, and that's what consumers, customers, clients will connect to.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for,
Right.
Especially like, if I'm looking for a new home or something, like I want someone like I know has my best interest at heart, and that's what we're looking for.
Right, exactly. I've never ever had a client choose to work with me because of the agency I was with, or because and not even because of like the amount of followers I have on Instagram. I know like nowadays people put a lot of value to that, but it's not as important as you think.
It is, that's true. Yeah. It's like you're looking for good people. Like,
yes, exactly. Like the people who have chosen to work with me is because they got along with me, or they just like me, or they've heard good things from friends or other people who have worked with me. I think word of mouth is super.
I think it's almost the most valuable.
So valuable
marketing that you can get, because like that's if you're hearing from a friend or a family member like, hey, like I had a great experience with this person. Like obviously that's gonna be more intriguing.
Right, because you're starting off your business relationship already with the trust, as opposed to having to gain the trust.
Yeah.
And that makes a really, really big difference. And it makes it easier to communicate as well. So yes, I think just the more you are yourself, and sometimes they can change. The me of today is not the same me of 5 years ago, right? So it's also okay to reinvent yourself and to keep doing it until
you're
satisfied.
That's part of what's fun about life too. Like working on yourself. Your whole life you'll be doing it.
Right. Yes. When I was younger, back in my days, when I was younger, like in my university years, like I used to be so anxious about trying to figure out like what I was going to do with the rest of my life. Yeah. Who am I? What do I want? What do I love? What am I passionate about? And then in my 20s, like I had different jobs and I would get promoted and think like, okay, I've made it. I've been promoted. I make X amount of money. And then I realized I was still miserable. Yeah. And I tried so many different things. And then at some point that made me self-conscious, because I'm like, people are going to think I'm so like lost and confused. I'm doing all these things. And it took a while to realize that, one, it doesn't matter. It actually really doesn't matter. And two, there's a quote that says, not all those who wander are lost. Meaning sometimes that's just part of your journey, and sometimes that's just who you are, a multifaceted person.
Yeah.
And that's okay too, Some people know that they want to be a doctor or a journalist since they're 5 years old, and other people it's a life journey.
Yeah, you don't have to be just one thing.
Right, exactly. And these days I'd even argue that it's better to be multiple things.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you just never know where the economy is going. We just got over a pandemic, for crying out loud.
We don't know what's next.
We don't know what's next. Like there's new jobs being created in the workforce. There's jobs that no longer exist, so you're actually doing yourself a benefit if you have a lot of experience in various things, in various industries, and if you have many skills.
Yeah, and you find yourself in your passions.
Yeah. exactly. You'll never get bored.
That's true. And what are some of your goals, either personally in your career for the upcoming months, years, or?
I mean, I have a few. I have like obviously financial goals. I think anyone that's in sales or commission based, every year we come up with a new, you come up with a new like salary that you want to hit. So of course I have that, but I also, I'd love to buy more investment properties. And then my other passions too, just because real estate has been successful, it doesn't mean that I've stopped having interest in some of my other passions. Like, I'm still pitching some of my other web series. Like I have pilots that I've worked on and I'm still pitching. And I mean, the industry, it could be like 10 years later and all of a sudden someone's interested.
Yeah, that's true. You have to
it's
have
so
some
random.
Patience. Like this, like you have, I think one thing that's important too is like, let me know if you feel the same way, but you have to like keep working at it and then like, put it out there and it's gonna happen when it's gonna happen.
Right, exactly.
You mentioned as well to me a little bit about financial intelligence off camera. I feel like that's a term a lot of people would love to know more about. If you could chat about it a little bit.
I mean, I think at this point everyone knows that school and real life are two very separate things.
Oh, yeah. I feel like we get the shock when we.
It's almost a shock. Yes, it's a shock when you enter the workplace, and it's the same in real estate. Real estate school does not prepare you for the business of real estate. Two completely different things. And another thing that I wouldn't say I have an issue with, but a thing that concerns me, I guess I should say, is the lack of financial education that we get in school.
It's scary, honestly.
It's very scary, and it's such a huge part of life and how you manage your life, and sometimes the difference between failing and succeeding, and so I think financial intelligence is something that's super valuable and that we should teach our children at a very young age. And I mean, you don't have to start accounting at 5 years old, but just teaching your kids like the concept of saving, of delayed gratification, when they're a little bit older, teaching them about having a bank account, and when they get their allowance, how to divide it between what they can spend and what they should save. Exactly. Later on, teaching your teenagers about credit cards and how that works and how to use credit to your benefit, because there's a way to handle it. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be like this evil thing. There's different types of credit cards, and young adults, the difference between regular interest and compound interest, and being able to start investing as soon as possible. I don't live in regrets, but if I were to have a regret, I would say is not starting to invest sooner. Investing in real estate, of course I'm a realtor, so I'm going to say that, but I think it's an amazing investment, and the younger you start, the better it is, and I see it. I get a lot of first-time buyers, and I think one of the reasons is because they find me so approachable, and people know I'll take the time to answer questions. Like there's no stupid questions,
especially if you're a first-time buyer. Like
it can be nerve-wracking. Yeah. So I really take my time to educate my first-time buyers, and I realize a lot of them don't know just like something simple as your first purchase, right? Your first purchase does not have to be a house or a condo. Yeah. You can start with a duplex, and live in part of it. And even if you live in it with your parents or something like that, but you rent out the other part, and they don't know, for example, not only that they can purchase a duplex, but that their budget, the bank will give them a bigger budget for a duplex than they would for a condo. Simple things like that can make such a big difference in starting your journey to being financially independent, exactly. Or especially people who are thinking of like generational wealth, when you start like wanting to have a family and you want to think about what you want to leave behind for your kids, or even retirement. Like nowadays, just putting money in RSPs is not enough to have like a good retirement. You want to spend half the year in Florida, you kind of need to start early. to plan for that. So yes, financial literacy, I should say. It's something I'm increasingly passionate about. I'm doing more and more talks. I did a talk at Concordia University not too long about that. And just like taking chances in your career, but also being strategic in terms of the risk. And, always thinking about the long-term game as well.
But I feel like you said there's a big aspect of scarcity, of not knowing.
Yes.
So what would you say to someone who would, want to learn more about like their financial goals, or how can they get the information that they need a little bit more?
I mean, now that's the beauty of, we're in 2023. There's access to so much information out there. You have to obviously be smart, because not everything that's online is good advice, of course.
A lot of information.
There's a lot of garbage as well, that's true. But I would say, do your research. Find if you get a lot of your information from social media, for example, that's okay. But make sure that it's people that are legit.
Yeah, resources.
Great resources. People that have done the work themselves.
Yeah.
You're not going to take, I don't know, advice about starting a business from someone who inherited the business from their family. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but
it's different steps.
It's different steps. If you are starting from nothing, then you should be following or taking advice from someone who also started from nothing. So they can really walk you through, the building steps of starting a business from scratch, It's two completely different strategies. So making sure you follow people that you can relate to and that have the right credibility. And then from there's just so much, TikTok is out there changing lives every day.
I know.
There's so much information. But cross-check the references.
And it's about taking the time to do it as well. Sometimes it can feel so intimidating. People might not even take that first step of starting to find the information they need.
Right, and just don't be afraid to ask questions. I think that's a big one. Sometimes we're shy or we're worried that it's stupid. I mean, you'll never know until you ask. So. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Cindy, for joining me today for today's podcast.
My pleasure. It was so much fun. And I think it's wonderful what you're doing. Anything to give women more resources, more information, and just the exchange of stories. I think that can always be helpful. There's always something to learn. So, yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's true. I know, what I love about this podcast is I get the chance to, learn, your story and other women's story. And it's always, so inspiring.
Right.
And for people who would love to get to know you a little bit more and follow your journey, or maybe even work with you, where could they find you?
Sure. I think the easiest way is on my website, so cindycharlesmtl.com. And from there, they can ask me questions about real estate, they can shop for properties, they can book consultations, and then my social media is there too, right? So they can access me on Instagram. But it's pretty much Cindy Charles MTL everywhere, or on Instagram, because it's such an old account. It's collectively BE, but you could just Google it. Google is your friend.
Yeah, like we said.
You can find everything on Google.
Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the She's Got It All Figured Out podcast. I can't wait to share more incredible discussions with you in the next one. In the meantime, for more personal development resources and support, don't hesitate to download the Bloom app, which is designed according to the 8 dimensions of wellness to help you create a life you're in love with. Start your free trial and take the next step in your personal growth journey today.